My daily arcade struggles involve regular combat with Windows 7's controller orders, default behavior. If you've clicked on this video, you're probably familiar with this. It's the joy.cpl in Windows 7, and it's ordering however it feels like your controllers. So in this case, we've got USB joystick. That's this N64 controller from one manufacturer. And then we've got our Zinmotech controllers, which is one on this side, one on this side. And then we've got the DInput controller, which is this N64 from another manufacturer. And they're set in this order, and this is the order that all of your consoles inside software are going to see those controllers. But what that means is that now everything on the arcade, instead of player 1 and player 2, they're all going to be player 2 and player 3. So it's important to order them around, but Windows does not provide any simple way to do this. It basically orders them by part of their registry behavior in alphabetical order. It's a completely inconsistent and useless method. So there's a few solutions to this problem. I've written them out here. There is number 1, DEVREORDER, and there is number 2, everything else which doesn't work. I've tried many different methods. I've tried different utilities. I've even tried having the AI code me something that can rewrite the registry on boot. Nothing else will work, so you've got to learn DEVREORDER despite how much of a pain in the ass it is. It is better than the other methods, and I do have an honorable mention. That's to try replugging your USB, swapping your USB ports around, which does work for us as long as all of the hardware ID are the same, basically the same controller. So that's 4 of these rather than 2. You can switch them around and it will reorder them nicely. But as soon as you put in other controllers from manufacturers, that will stop working. So I'm just going to quickly run through DEVREORDER. This isn't going to be a comprehensive tutorial, but there's essentially 3 install types, 3 DLL cases, and then there's 3 different pieces of, there's 3 different identifiers on each USB controller that you can use to either reorder or to exclude or to force include certain controller types, because some people have systems with 6 different controller types, and it's very important when you get that many to be able to modify their order. So here's an example. We've got a Sega Genesis installing with the binary specific way, which is the way that I have this system working, is you just put the hacked DLL, that's the DInput DLL, inside the same file as the executable file or the binary, and then you have a little ini file. You take that, this is the ini file opened, and then you will specify your order right here. And here we are using, I believe this is the GUID. So this would be now your 2 arcade controls, and then these are your 2 N64 controls. So as long as that binary is running, it will respect this order rather than the order that you'll find in joy.cpl. And it does work as long as you have the correct version of this DLL. There is a 32-bit for 32-bit applications and a 64-bit for 64-bit applications. I think there is a difference in their size. So this smaller size one will be the 32-bit application. So let's move on to the next example here, which is the NES. So I did replace this NES, the entire emulator, because it is too old. It is not using the DInput, and there is one other hacked DLL you can put inside here, but the emulator was even too old for that. And here we're talking about our DLL cases. If it's incompatible, I just replace the program, because there is no other way other than to rebind the controls, which I don't want to do. But in this case, I have not set any order. You can see all these fields are commented out. I've only hidden that first controller, that green one that is very greedy and always occupying the first space. NES is a 2-player console, so all I've had to do is remove that from its vision, and that is good enough to get this working as expected. Okay, so I mentioned the few different ways to install these. What you're seeing is the binary specific, but you can also put binary specific DLLs and then define one global ANI file, and that will be in your hidden on your C drive program data folder, I believe. So it will first look for the global ANI file in the program data folder. The third way to install this is system-wide. On boot, you are going into some system folders, System32. For example, I don't bother with that. Binary specific works just fine, and I do find that I need to have specific ANI files per emulator. For example, this was something that I've been trying to get working for a few days, and I figured it out today. That's why I made this video. I had everything properly configured for the multiple arcade machine emulator. You have the right DIN put in there, but the dev reorder, it was not respecting the dev reorder. It was very bizarre. What the fix ended up being is using this identifier in the curly braces rather than this identifier in the brackets. Why? No idea. But I did see this suggested on forums somewhere. I thought, what the hell? Just try it. And it worked immediately. So how do you get these weird identifiers? Well, DevReorder does come with a utility. It's called Device Lister. This is quite important. There are ways to get these identifiers, but it's in Device Manager. It is much more cumbersome to get them that way. So you may have to install DirectX 9 for this. I have that right here. Device Lister needs DirectX 9, and it shows those 3 identifiers, which is the name, number 1, and then I suppose that's the GUID in the braces, and then this would be the instance. So I was always using the instance, but in the case of MAME, for whatever reason, that is wrong. And I am now using these GUIDs, these hexadecimal identifiers, in the correct order, and it is now working perfectly on the correct DLL. And I'll just show you. We'll open up this device lister, and it will just immediately open so long as you have DirectX 9